So our second preview show here at JW Hills, Jeremy Levy, Pete Terrier for the New Hampshire Notebook, NHNotebook.com. Look at Division II boys basketball as tournament gets started on Wednesday night. All the prelim games for Division II, and kind of a crazy way that things are seeded in Division II. I don't know if I've ever seen this where you have 4 teams all tied for the number 1 seed. I remember a couple of years ago in Division I when Winnacunnet and Pinkerton went to the championship game. Wasn't there like a 4-way tie for the number 2 seed? I think there was like all tied at 14 and 4. But I don't know if I've ever seen this. All these teams tied for the number 1 seed. I think, yeah, that year Winnacunnet was number 1. And then there was like a 4-way tie for the number 2 seed. But 4-way tie for the number 1 seed, very rare. But you got Hanover, Portsmouth, Pembroke, and Souhegan all end the season 16 and 2.
I think stuff like that happens when you have an unbalanced schedule. There's so many teams in, Division II and Division III especially, and all these teams don't play each other, so that's why that type of stuff happens. You got Hanover, which I don't think a lot of people necessarily know how good they are. I've never even seen them play, and I try and get out to as many basketball games as possible. I know you've seen them play. I know they got a marquee win against Pembroke, but I know they
beat them by 17.
Yeah. And the only thing I have to go about that is a text message exchange that I had with Pembroke coach Matt Alosa about that game, asking him about Hanover, if they're really good, were you guys flat? I know it's a long, trip to Hanover from Pembroke, from anywhere really, except for Lebanon. Yeah. But, that's about all I know. He says that they play hard, they get a bunch of different guys, they're really well balanced. But, they also have a couple of losses that, aren't the best losses. They lost their 2 games to what?
They lost to Lebanon and St. Thomas.
Yeah.
And the St. Thomas game, you really got to scratch your head about that. I mean,
but they also beat Portsmouth.
St. Thomas, the number 14 seed. Yeah, and then so how is St. Thomas the number 14 seed? They beat Hanover and they beat Portsmouth. Right. It's just it's strange how the scheduling works. Lebanon, they beat Hanover, who's the number 1 seed, and they also nearly beat Pembroke twice. They almost beat Pembroke yesterday. I was at the beginning of that game, and they had a 10-point lead early on against Pembroke. They're not your typical number 9 seed. Pelham, meanwhile, they're the number 8 seed. They beat Portsmouth. So I think you got, because of the unbalanced schedule, you have some teams that are a little bit higher than you would think they would be. Teams like Merrimack Valley, Goffstown, in the 6th and 7th spot, maybe a little bit higher than you would think, and Lebanon and Pelham in the 8 and 9 spots in the standings, a little bit further down than you might expect. But do you feel like those top 4 teams, that's it? Those are the championship contenders, or do you see maybe somebody else outside of that top 4 making a run at this thing, where you got Hanover, Portsmouth, Pembroke, and Souhegan in that top 4?
Bedford. I was at the first of the 2 Bedford-Souhegan games, the one that took place at Bedford. Souhegan got down by Souhegan got up by like 17 points in that game. I don't remember if it was the first half or the second half. But Bedford made a huge rally, ended up winning that game, somewhat going away. They showed me a lot. They've got obviously all the size. People talk about Trinity with the size in D1. They talk about Bedford with the size in D2. And
they got more size because they got
Trevor Farmey didn't even play in that game, and they beat Souhegan at Bedford, and that was a phenomenal atmosphere. I mean, that place was packed. It's a rivalry game. I think if Bedford can get good play out of their guards, James Caporal, Trevor Glassman, and they got a couple of point guards that they kind of rotate, and I can't remember their names, I apologize for that, but they're both basically the same player. They look like the same kid. They're really, really small and thin point guards that they interchange, but with all the size that they got and having Trevor Farmey back, I think that they're a team that can step up and beat some teams. Now, they also have some very questionable losses, destroyed by Pelham, and I'm sure they've got a couple other losses.
They lost the second game to Souhegan.
Right.
Just the other night, yeah.
Right. So, look, I think that there's only 5 teams. You might want to try and give me Pelham. I thought maybe at the beginning of the year that Pelham would be a team that would have a chance. I just don't see it. I don't think they're deep enough. I don't think they have enough size. They obviously don't have a kid like Steven Sparrow like they had that can carry him on her back like they did last year and got to the Final Four. I say, and I don't even know if Hanover can win the whole thing. but I haven't seen them, so I got to put them in there. But I think for sure Portsmouth, Pembroke, Souhegan, and Bedford are definitely legit contenders. And the thing that kind of upsets me the most is you might not see Portsmouth and Pembroke. They could play in the semifinals. Those are the 2 and 3 seeds. They can't play in the championship game. Cannot happen. And I think those two teams are really the best two teams.
Well, and you mentioned that we have that as the seeding, and these are unofficial seedings that we have that we've received based on looking at tiebreakers that NHIA has on their website. We believe it's going to be Hanover is the number 1 seed, Portsmouth in the 2 spot, 3 Pembroke, 4 Souhegan in that 4-way tie. So like Pete said, Portsmouth and Pembroke preseason where everybody's top 2 teams. They met in the first game of the regular season. We were both at that game. It was an unbelievable game on opening night with Portsmouth coming out on top. And after that game, everybody thought, okay, these are the 2 best teams. This is going to be the championship game. Well, it can't be the championship game because as far as we know, those would be the 2 and 3 seeds, and they'd play each other in the semifinals. I do think they're going to both advance to the semifinals. I think Portsmouth, I'll just say it right now, I think they're going to win this. I think they're the best team. They got size, they have experience. They got a star player, Kamal Walker, that is capable of scoring 25, 30 points any given night. Had 26 in their last regular season game just the other night against Oyster River. He can score at will. They got the other guys back there. Kyle DeCesare is now healthy. Greg Segran
is he truly healthy? I mean, that's the only. Look, I agree with you. I think that Portsmouth should win. I think they're the most solid team, but I don't know that he's healthy. I mean, you're coming back from a broken bone in your foot. It's not easy to get over that. So I don't think that he's going to be a huge factor. I think he was a big factor a couple of years ago.
Well, he had 11 points. He had 2 threes the other night against Oyster River. I mean, I wasn't at that game.
It gives you another guy who can score, and that's a very deep team, a defensive-minded team. But I think this is a guard tournament. I really think so, and I think Kamal Walker is the best.
They got him. They got Billy Lane. They got Ben Landry off the bench, the sophomore that's played really well for them as well. And inside
Dupree is tremendous.
Inside you got Dupree, Regazio, and Segranis. And then you got a guy that can play inside or outside with DeCesare in there.
Yeah, I think that's the team to beat.
Oh, I agree.
I really do. I think Pembroke, similar to last year. Their guys are a year older. Rainey Marr, Pat Welch, Matt Parsons. They've got a few other guys that can help, but they just don't have enough of that quality depth. Morrison is big, but he's not really an inside guy. He's more of a wing, I don't want to say a wing player, but likes to play out on the perimeter a little bit. Jordan Williams is very athletic. I just think that he's still kind of raw.
Yeah.
He's had some big games, but I just think Portsmouth is the team to beat. But don't count out a team like Souhegan. Don't count out a team like Bedford.
Yeah, Bedford and Souhegan, 2 tough physical teams that are also capable of making a run. Let's run down the seedings as we believe they will shake out. We mentioned Hanover, Portsmouth, Pembroke, Souhegan in those top 4 spots. Bedford is the number 5 seed. They're not in any tiebreaker there. 6, Merrimack Valley gets the nod over Goffstown in that tiebreaker. So it's 6 Merrimack Valley, 7 Goffstown, 8 Pelham, 9 Lebanon, 10 is John Stark, 11 Co-Brown, 12 Bishop Brady, 13 Hollis Brookline, 14 St. Thomas, 15 Kingswood, and 16 Wyndham. So as far as we know, that's going to be the field of 16 in Division II boys basketball. You mentioned no Oyster River in there.
That's surprising.
And that's very surprising with the program that they have had, year in and year out, making the quarterfinals, oftentimes making the semifinals. Always seem like standings-wise, they're up there, top 4, top 5. For the fact that Oyster River is not in the playoffs, it's definitely surprising.
Yeah, it is surprising. I mean, I didn't think that they were going to be a very, very strong team going into the season, but they didn't even make the tournament. And you got to make a tournament, especially with a team like Oyster River.
And Milford also not in the tournament.
Well, are you surprised that they did not make the tournament at all? Because they lost so much off that team.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like based on returning talent, Milford and Oyster River, I thought they were both kind of in a similar boat. I thought they were both, would be somewhere in that, 10 to 13 range. Maybe get an 8 or 9 spot. If they can really get things together and start playing well. But at the least, maybe be in that 12 to 13, maybe 14 range. I thought they would both be playoff teams for sure. So I definitely surprised that both of them are not in there. So two programs, Milford and Oyster River, though, the last few years, few teams have probably those two, Pelham, Portsmouth, and Pembroke, are probably the 5 programs that over the last 4 or 5 years have won the most games. So the fact that those two aren't in there, definitely surprising. I look at that 8-9 game, Lebanon and Pelham, as being a great first round game. Two teams that are physical, that are really going to battle each other in there. They both have high-profile wins. Lebanon, they beat Hanover, and Pelham, they beat Portsmouth. So these teams are capable of winning against some pretty good teams. And then both of them, they both lost to Pembroke, but they both lost very close games to Pembroke. Lebanon played Pembroke twice. They lost just yesterday by 5 points, 64 to 59. And in the first game, they were up the whole way at home, and then a couple threes late by Tyler Morrison, and Lebanon ended up losing that by just 4 points. So, Lebanon and Pelham,
Morrison hitting threes late in the game?
Yeah, Morrison, had a couple late threes, and Pat Welch had a 3 as well. They just kind of really got hot shooting the ball late in the game. But I think that winner of that game against Hanover in the quarterfinals could be an upset. The fact that you have a possibility, I know that Lebanon would have to go on the road. I think going on the road, that long trip, going to the Snake Pit and playing Pelham, I do think Pelham's going to win that first round game against Lebanon. However, if Lebanon does win, sets up Lebanon and Hanover in the quarterfinals at Hanover. I mean, I know a lot of people watching this. A lot of people are, Southern New Hampshire, don't really know much about Lebanon and Hanover, but up north, that is a big deal. Lebanon and Hanover is possibly the biggest rivalry in the state, especially for basketball. That would be a great quarterfinal game.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, but you're right. You think about it. If we did talk to Matt Reagan from Pelham and Brett Bailey and DeFranzo right here in December, early December, and we expected them to be one of the top 4 seeds. They might end up getting to the Final Four, but coming out of the 8th seed. And if you asked them and said, hey, you know what, you're going to be an 8 or a 9 seed, and if you can win that one game, you're going to face the number 1 seed, but it's Hanover, I bet you they'd sign up for that. No disrespect to Hanover. But I bet you they'd rather play Hanover than if you put the truth serum or Wonder Woman's magic lasso around Matt Reagan and you said, here's your choices for 1 seeds. You can play Hanover, you can play Portsmouth, or you can play Pembroke. Which one do you want? I bet you he says, we'll take some Marauders.
Oh, definitely. But at the same time, Hanover's a team. They're very physical, just like Pelham is. They have some size, but so do these other teams. Portsmouth has a couple guys that are 6'4", 6'5". Rugazio is about 6'5". Kind of a skinny guy, though, not really a big physical guy. But Pembroke, not really a physical team. They got a couple of guys that are 6'3", 6'4". Not really a physical team, but Hanover is a very physical team. They got Dan Gorman.
I like him.
Dan Gorman's a very physical player, football kid, but they're a very physical team. They'll beat you up. The game Lebanon and Hanover, when I saw the play at Lebanon in the regular season, was one of the most physical games I saw all year. Those teams are just beating each other up for 32 minutes. And Hanover, they were being physical, but they also had some shooters out there that were knocking down shots. They were moving the ball around well. They don't really have one guy that they rely on to score all their points. Whereas Lebanon, their offense ran through David Hampton. They really rely on Hampton to score the basketball, run the show, shoot from the outside. Hanover doesn't have one guy. That they won that game by going away against Lebanon. Dan Gorman only had 4 points. It was other guys that were doing the damage for them. They're a good team. I think quarterfinals, like I said, I think Pelham at home, I think they're going to beat Lebanon in that first game, but I think it's going to be a great first round game. And then they got to go all the way to Hanover in that second round game which would be a great game. I think Pelham could pull the upset, but I think Hanover wins it in the second round to advance to the semifinals. Any lower seeded teams that you see? We talk about Pelham and Lebanon, but any teams 10 seed and down, teams like a John Stark or a Co-Brown, Bishop Brady, Hollis Brookline, any teams you see pulling off a first round upset?
A couple interesting notes. I mean, the 10-7 game, Goffstown, John Stark, they just played each other twice to end the regular season, and now they're going to play each other in the playoffs. That's a rivalry.
They're probably going to be sick of each other.
They're right next door to each other in terms of location in the
They probably play each other during the summertime too.
Exactly. So that's intriguing to me. Co-Brown's a team that seems to be playing very, very well. They got Skylar Mitchell back. That's a dangerous team.
They're playing against Merrimack Valley.
Sure.
Merrimack Valley. Like we talked about with Goffstown. A couple teams that might be a little seeded a little higher than you expect because of strength of schedule. I'll call it right now. I think Co-Brown is going to beat Merrimack Valley in that first round. 11 is going to beat a 6.
I wouldn't be surprised if that happened at all. Brady Bedford, the 12-5 game. Jordan Bell. I don't know that Brady can go into Bedford and win that game. But when I was looking at what I thought the pairings are going to be, that was one of the games when I'm trying to decide where I'm going to go on Wednesday night. Brady Bedford. I haven't seen Jordan Bell play yet.
He's good.
Maybe I'll go check out that game. I'm not necessarily sure where I'm going to go, but that's one that.
If you see that game, you take a look at Jordan Bell. Then you can kind of figure out him, Ian Sestair from Trinity. Those are probably the two best freshmen in the NHIA this year.
Got way much more around him.
Oh yeah, so it's kind of tough to judge. Yeah. But two players that are very fun to watch and will be fun to watch over the next few years. I do think Brady has a shot to upset somebody, but they got a tough draw going against Bedford. And Brady's a team that they got some big guys. They got Jack Ivars, Dylan Thomas that are 6'4", 6'5", athletic guys. But it's kind of tough. If they were going against a smaller team, I think they could pull an upset with Bell out there. But going against a team that also has size, but more size with Bedford, I think Bedford wins that game in the first round. Like I said, I think Co-Brown is going to beat Merrimack Valley. Goffstown, John Stark. I think Stark has the chance to pull an upset. I don't know too much about those teams, but teams lower down. St. Thomas is the only team, I think, 13 seed down when you got Hollis Brookline, St. Thomas, Kingswood, Wyndham. St. Thomas is the only team there that I see as, possibility of maybe pulling off an upset because they have had some big wins. St. Thomas, they've already beaten Portsmouth and they've already beaten Hanover during the regular season. Those other teams I don't see pulling off an upset, but they got a tough draw going up against Pembroke. Pembroke, St. Thomas could be an interesting game.
I think so.
I think Pembroke is going to win it, but it could be an interesting game. St. Thomas really relies a lot on the outside shot. If they can get hot from the outside. Pembroke, we know they rely a lot on the outside shot as well. Persons and Wells shooting the ball from the outside. I think there's going to be a lot of three-pointers going up in that game. And if St. Thomas can run with them and stay with them, could be an interesting game. But I do see Pembroke moving on.
Yeah, Andrew Carr is a good player. Nardiff is a good player. I just don't think they're going to beat Pembroke. Wow.
So, Final Four in Division 2, I see Hanover moving on. I think there's a possibility of an upset, a very good possibility. Whoever wins that Lebanon-Pelham game, going up against Hanover in that second round, a very good possibility of an upset there. But I like Hanover moving on. I like Portsmouth and Pembroke, and then you have a possibility that 4-5 game in the quarterfinals. Obviously, Pete, that's the best quarterfinal game. You talked about Hanover against the Lebanon and Pelham winner. That's going to be a great quarterfinal game, especially if it's Hanover and Lebanon, that great rivalry. But how about Souhegan and Bedford? More than likely, barring a huge upset, Bedford and Souhegan meeting again in the quarterfinals with a shot at going to UNH.
Yeah.
Talk about a great atmosphere for that one.
I talked about the atmosphere in that regular season game at Bedford. This one would be at Souhegan. I like the Bedford gym better. Bedford High School, is obviously newer than Souhegan High School. So I think the gym is a little bit nicer. Souhegan gym is weird. They have that second set of bleachers, behind the first set.
Yeah.
And there's only bleachers on one side.
Bedford's only one side.
Do they have one side?
Sometimes they open up the second side, but
they when I went to that game, they had them on both sides.
Oh, did they? Okay.
It was a packed crowd.
Yeah.
So this would be at Souhegan if it comes to that. That's a great game right there. I
don't know who I would pick in that game, really. I think that's kind of a toss-up. I feel like I feel like they both have some good size. I think Bedford has maybe an advantage in the
have more
front court.
height.
They got more
height.
size. They got more talent in the front court, especially when you got Trevor Fahmy back there going against the guys for Souhegan. But I think you look at the backcourt, maybe Souhegan has an edge. They have, you talk about Kamal Walker being the best guard for Portsmouth. Souhegan has the best guard on either of those teams with Brandon Len.
He got a lot better this year.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I mean, when I was going into the year, I was like, he's okay. Man, he opened my eyes big time. He's a tremendous player.
Yeah.
Go to the hole. He could shoot the three.
He knows exactly when to dish it off and when to just try to score himself.
Yeah,
too.
he's a real good player. That kid Zach Simmons can shoot the ball.
Yeah.
They got a bunch of guys at about 6'4" that can shoot the ball and take the ball to the hole. I'm almost gonna, and I love Mike Heaney. I think he's a tremendous coach, great guy. I'd almost have to favor Bedford in that game.
I'm picking Souhegan. I feel like you got to protect the basketball. If you got a player at the point guard position who knows how to run the offense and set teammates up and be able to handle pressure, if you throw a double team at somebody, I think teams all year, obviously they're going to press Bedford, and they've won a lot of games, so obviously they've adjusted to that and they've been able to beat presses. Otherwise they wouldn't be one of the hottest teams going into the tournament. But I think having a guy who can really run the show and control the basketball and handle the ball, set teammates up when things are really tight in a close game late could be the difference. Bedford has the advantage inside, but you got to be able to get the ball inside to those big guys. I think it's going to be a great game, but I guess Souhegan moving on.
Nah, I mean, look, that could go either way. It's a coin flip. I think it depends for Bedford. If Glassman and Caparel play really, really well, in that backcourt, that's going to kind of offset things a little bit. But can the winner of that 8-9 game, either Pelham or Lebanon, go to Hanover and win? I'm not so sure, so I'm almost putting them in there. If the game was in Pelham against Hanover, I think maybe a different story.
Yeah.
Or even at Lebanon. But, I would say that, in terms of advancing to the Final Four, if we're going to go there right now, Portsmouth, Pembroke, Hanover, it's chalk. Like I said, there's 5 teams that can win it.
Yeah.
And I think 4 of them, obviously, are going to be in the Final Four at UNH.
What do you think about the way they do the standings and tiebreakers and the whole, you get more points for away games versus home?
Stupid. That's stupid. Change that, please. That's ridiculous.
Because you got a 4-way tie, and the only reason why Hanover is the number 1 seed is because their rating.
And they played 2 teams from Vermont, and they are one.
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous. I mean, Pelham, played Campbell, a Division III team, and lost. It's ridiculous. They need to fix that.
And that game counted just as much.
Right.
If they had won that game against Division III Campbell, it would have counted just as much if they had won a game against a Division II school.
And I think Pelham was in the situation last year. They played Whittier Tech out of Massachusetts, and maybe that game didn't count as much as the game against Division III, Campbell last year. It's ridiculous. Get that out of there. That needs to be fixed.
Do you think they should bring back the heel points?
I don't know.
I mean, I think they got to have something.
I never figured it out when they were doing it. What, they do it 1 year, 2 years?
Yeah, just 2 years ago.
I never even bothered to figure that stuff
I feel
out.
like, in Division I, it's different. Everybody plays everybody. You should just go by the way the standings go. Don't bother with the home, more points for an away win versus a home win. But in Division 2, 3, and 4, you have unbalanced scheduling. You have 23, 24 teams in division. Not everybody plays everybody. You have to have some kind of system that accounts for strength of scheduling with these seedings.
Yeah,
So you have
strength of scheduling. That's just getting into a whole other can of worms. I just wish they had a balanced schedule. I don't know if it's possible. Maybe it is.
Yeah, it's not
Maybe it isn't.
You got 24 teams or 23 teams. It's possible, in Division 1 when everybody plays everybody, but
Right.
you just can't have that in Division 2. Especially with the long road trips, you got teams that are spread apart, whereas Division 1 they're all pretty close together. Pete, who you got for All-State? Is there one guy that you see being a Player of the Year in Division 2, or I think there's a few guys that are looking at possibly being first-team All-Staters.
Before the season, I would have said Kamal Walker.
I would still probably say him.
Well, I think that he's a very good player and perhaps the best player in Division 2. I don't think they needed him to be that guy all year. I think they need him to be that guy in the playoffs if they want to win a championship. Plus, he has a lot more help around him. Pat Welch, he's lit it up this year, so he's got to be in consideration. He's a sophomore. Brandon Len.
He's got a lot of help though. I mean, is some nights Randy Maher might be the guy, some nights Matt Person might be the guy. Usually Welch is the go-to guy.
He's the
if there's
most
one
guy.
guy,
He's the most consistent guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how far down that I should go to look for a player.
But you mentioned Brandon Len is definitely a candidate. A kid that probably will be a first-team All-Stater.
I think those are the guys. I think those are the three guys that should have consideration.
Pelham,
Walker,
Derek DeFranco.
Walsh.
I don't know.
He's not a player of the year.
He'll be a first-team All-Stater,
Probably.
or at least a candidate.
Probably.
Hanover, Dan Gorman's got a shot at being there as a first-team All-Stater.
But
at least.
not player of the year.
No, yeah.
First
Yeah,
team
I mean,
All-Star.
my guy, I think Kamal Walker is the guy for now, at least. My opinion. I think you wait till after the championship game. But for now, it's him. Welch has a shot at being there. Bedford, you mentioned Brandon Len. Bedford, I don't know if they got really a candidate.
One on Bedford, deserves to be, I don't think All-State or Player of the Year, and that's not a knock on them. I just think they've got a bunch of good guys. In Sauhegan, I think Len is he's the straw that stirs that drink.
Oh yeah, and some other guys for Lebanon. David Hampton is a possible first-team All-State candidate. For Merrimack Valley, I know we said I'm picking them to lose to Co Brown in the first round and everything, but got to give credit to Justin Abbott. When I saw Merrimack Valley play, I was very impressed by Abbott, the way he plays on both ends of the floor. He can shoot from the outside, he can slash the basket, and in my opinion, he's possibly the best defender in Division II basketball. Justin Abbott for Merrimack Valley. Some other players in consideration there as you look further down. Pelham with Derek DeFranco, we mentioned him. John Stark. Nick Lloyd, the point guard, has done a great job for them to keep them in some games. Jordan Bell for Bishop Brady. Maybe get like a second team spot there as a freshman.
Wait a couple of years for him. I mean, you're early on him, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, we've already mentioned quite a few guys that are probably going to be first teamers. Bedford candidates are Glassman and Fahmy as possible first or second team players there. Like I said, I think Portsmouth is the team to beat in Division II. Any other thoughts looking at the tournament? Possible dark horses in this race or games to watch in the first round?
I mean, look, like I said, 5 teams can win it, and one of them I'm questionable on just because I haven't seen them, Hanover. And it's the top 5 seeds: Hanover, Portsmouth, Pembroke, Sauhegan, and Bedford. We could have ended the show about 20 minutes ago after I said that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think Pelham, Lebanon, they got a shot. The winner of that game to beat Hanover, and then that 4-5 game, Bedford and Sauhegan in the quarterfinals could be a great game. And then semifinals, Pembroke and Portsmouth possibly playing each other. That should
be the championship.
Yeah,
game.
I agree. That will probably be the semifinal game, but the winner of that game will probably win the championship. I think it'll be Portsmouth winning the title. They're a good all-around team, defensively, offensively. They're playing some good basketball right now. So that's our Division II boys basketball tournament preview. Pete Terrier and Jeremy Levy. Again, Pete, I'll give you a chance to plug your radio show on WGIR.
Well, I appreciate it. It's actually on 2 stations, WGIR, AM 610 out of Manchester. And if you're on the Seacoast, you Portsmouth fans, it's on 96.7 FM, The Wave, every Saturday morning, 7 to 9 a.m. Myself, along with Mark Taylor from the Union Leader. And we're going to be covering the tournament right up through the end of March. So last show is going to be on March 31st. So we're going to stick with it, and we hope you'll join us.
And we thank JW Hills in Manchester on Elm Street for allowing us to do the show here tonight. So previewing the tournaments in Division I and Division II boys basketball. Division II prelims get started on Wednesday night. We ran through those seedings, but the first round games, you have Wyndham going to Hanover 16 versus 1 matchup. Portsmouth in the 2-15 game playing against Kingswood. 3 seed Pembroke will be hosting St. Thomas. 4 seed Sauhegan be hosting Halls Brookline. Then you got in the 5-12 game Bedford and Bishop Brady. 6-11 game Merrimack Valley hosting Co Brown. 7-10 game we mentioned for the 3rd time in a row they're playing each other. Goffstown and John Stark in that 8-9 game we talked about as well. Pelham hosting Lebanon. That's your tournament for Division II boys basketball.
We think.
Yeah, there's a lot of tiebreakers there, and that's what we think it's going to be.
If this is wrong, we're going to look like idiots.
Yeah.
So we apologize if it's wrong.
but that's what we think it's going to be. So that's our Division II boys basketball preview show. Stay tuned to the New Hampshire Notebook, NHNotebook.com for further coverage of all the games. And thanks for watching.